Hello, world. Welcome to the Champions Coffee podcast, where every week we have coffee with an education professional who is out there on the front lines championing students to be all that they can be. I'm your host, Ben Hallett. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Vygo. And if you don't know what Vygo is, we're a student support platform that helps educators connect their students to their mentors, tutors, advisors, and counselors, and everything at Vygo that we call champions. And at Vygo, we really believe in celebrating the professionals who make all of these different support services and programs tick for students. So that's why we're doing this podcast. Today, we are very lucky to have our good friend, Matt Hoskins from Griffith University, Gold Coast University Student Guild. Sorry, Gold Coast Student Guild. Sorry, mate. I always get messed up with the acronym of GUGC SG.
Yeah. No, I can't seem to find a role that doesn't have about 8 words in it, but
yeah. So to give you a bit of an intro, mate, Matt Hoskins is an associate fellow of the Institute of Managers and Leaders and a student engagement specialist. He's worked across every stage of the student life cycle. So over the last 10 years, he's completed projects in international student engagement, student equity, campus culture, student recruitment, industry relations, alumni development, student leadership, and mentoring across UQ, QUT, and Griffith University. As the operations manager of the Gold Coast Student Guild, he manages teams which achieve over 70,000 student interactions a year in sport, advocacy, wellness, volunteering, clubs, employability, academic support, and events. Every day is different, and it fuels his interest in maximizing the potential of people, places, and programs by building strong communities. Oh, mate, what an intro.
I know, it's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff.
What haven't you done at a university?
Well, this is what I tell people all the time. It's easy just to say, oh, look, I've done everything a university offers except for teaching and research, which is like their core business. And it's only about like 5%, but there's a huge 5% when you think of the scale of how big a uni is. So I've really been in and out of everywhere, I think. It's good. I mean, right now I'm effectively managing the extracurricular student life and experience for Gold Coast students at Griffith Uni. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome. It's a really exciting place to be.
Yeah, and I have a particular affinity for the Gold Coast Student Guild. You know, one, because that's where I started my university life, was on the Gold Coast Griffith campus. But two, you guys are just such a well-oiled machine. I think you're one of the most phenomenal student guilds of the whole country, and I think you guys lead a lot of the thoughts and the innovation in the student union, student guild space, and your services. I think you guys go above and beyond what everybody else does, which I think is amazing. And clearly, you have students at the heart, and but at the same time, you were quite data driven, which I think even came up with your intro there. 70,000 interactions a year. You know, I think a lot of people, universities and student unions and guilds, they couldn't put a number like that, a figure like that. So anyway, I absolutely love working with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. We definitely were a well-oiled machine up until, about March 2020, but we're trying our best this year.
Mate, I don't think anyone, no one's firing at 100% right now, and everyone's rolling with the punches. So it's not just you, I think. All right. Well, so let's jump into the questions, mate. The first question, which I think we've kind of covered already, was to tell us a bit more about yourself and where you fit into the education space. But I think we've covered that one off. So we'll jump into the second one, which is what actually motivated you to get into the education space and to begin this journey?
I mean, look, I did a tourism major at uni, and that was a lot about building communities. And, at the time I realised in the Gold Coast I didn't get work in that, and I kind of fell back into the uni engagement space. But what I really love about it is just being able to connect the dots between things and make sense of complex environments. And the uni sector has been a really perfect playground for that. And you got an opportunity to be involved in a really exciting period of people's lives. I mean, they've got their own personal thing. From school to uni is a massive change in where they're at as a person. and everybody who's been through it kind of knows the different things that are in them from all angles. So I love to get involved and try and make sense and enhance that. I think people underestimate a bit, how much uni has to do or has nothing to do with the study. There's so many other aspects of what a student's all about, and we get to see people grow and develop as real humans, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, well, you actually, I 100% agree, and you've touched on something that is a quote that always sticks with me, which is education is transformation, which is something that Shirley Alexander from UTS said at a conference last year. That's really stuck with me, and you're totally right. It's not just about coming in and learning something and getting a piece of paper. It's you're there to transform your life and become something new, and that's so much bigger than just the classroom and the opportunities there. It's the whole ecosystem of opportunities at university.
For sure. I love doing lots of things, and you can see, like, even so far I've really rattled off about 20 I've been involved in over time, so
yeah.
It's definitely not boring, let's say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you've run the full gambit. You've done everything in the student experience space. What are some of the core programs or services that you're involved in at the moment?
Look, lots. I think all the extracurricular things have really rised over the number of years, and it's really about helping students stay connected, get healthy, get the best results, and prepare themselves for the workplace. So we're doing a lot of wellness at the moment. We've just started to get physical events back on campus, which is really exciting for us. I think we had 170 people at a sustainability fair last week. We've got our first kind of market food stall, like a social hangout. And then tomorrow we've got Are You OK Day, where we'll get, hopefully a couple hundred people in and have some small group peer-led discussions. And it's really tough right now to, reconnect with people and get them back into the swing of coming into campus and engaging with different people. We still, obviously we're doing a lot online as well, but it's been quite exciting to kind of be back. As I said to you before, I think this is my third day in the office since March. But it's good to be back, and it's good to be seeing people.
Yeah, well, I think the people listening to this out of Victoria are going to be quite jealous about everything you just said coming back on campus. I guess what would be because you've been in this now for 10 years and you've been across the board, what are some of the most notable things that you've seen change in the student experience space? I mean, you mentioned that there is so much more extracurricular activities now, but what else has changed over that time? Yeah,
look, over the last, because I've been doing this for 10 or so years, and the whole thing really accelerated. I think student experience has accelerated a lot over that time. It's obviously taken a hit right now with everything else in COVID, but I think it's more important than ever. I think unis are getting increasingly competitive, and they're looking to leverage this space as students, look for more than just a qualification, as you said. They're looking for an experience. They're looking to know, not just how I get a qualification to enter a door, but how do I really get a job? How do I boost my career quickly? So that's changed. It's really intensified a little bit. I think it'll go back. I mean, when you consider that every year you have hundreds of students who are, leaving with the same degree as you, it's really important, I think, to invest the time in doing the mentoring, the volunteering, and the leadership to give you that edge. I think something that's changing also is because I've worked a bit in the industry as well, and you really see, I think the expectation from employers is that new graduates come in with these emotional intelligence, communication, and team leadership skills. More so than ever. So the degrees get better at doing that, but it's really all this extracurricular stuff that's going to really develop that quickly. I think too, like, if you had to pick one service for us that I've seen that's really intensified over the last couple of years, it's the mental health and wellbeing space. We've got some great programs like Wellness Warriors who are out there every day checking in on students, breaking down the stigma and uplifting the mental health on campus. That's peer to peer. So, everyday students connecting with students, and it's really, I guess, broadening the support network of what's available for students. There's been a lot of interest, a lot of need, and ramp up for that, obviously intensified with COVID as well. I don't really think, though, that we've had a rising need for mental health support. What I think is happening is that people have just become more open to reaching out and talking about their problems, which is really terrific to see. And it means that we've kind of had this explosion in the space, but it means that we're dealing with issues. We're usually, I mean, in the past, I think students will have, it all been too hard and they'd have quit at the end of the day. So the more of those mental health challenges and work we have to do, I think the more positive that is for the community, which is great.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it also, something for everyone to consider is it also invites more people who previously wouldn't have considered university into university, because these programs do exist, and they know they could lean on them. So it's making everything more accessible as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I work in the equity space, and I really think there were students there that had really challenging backgrounds and situations, and coming to university has really, really helped them become a person because of all, you get free counselling sessions, you have real workshops on wellbeing, you've got, we do a lot of resilience, confidence, and skills boosting stuff. Like, there's not many other places that you can go and have all of that opportunity to grow yourself, alongside what you're doing as a study. So I think that's definitely lifted in the year, and it's good for everyone.
Yeah, 100%. All right, mate. So over your time, is there a particular, student success or student experience story that you and your team were, quite proud to be a part of that, that stands out?
Definitely. Like, there's been lots, and I've done so many great things. I think one of the all-time favorite projects for me was a little while ago, but I had the opportunity to launch a whole new sector of young alumni projects at UQ, and I started a group called UQ Future Leaders, which pulled together 200 of the best leaders from the graduating class every year. And we had like our mentors, club presidents, valedictorians, lead athletes, the medalists, academic, the VC award winners, uni ambassadors, researchers. And I think at a uni, like, it can be very segmented, and no one had sort of tried to pull that group together before in one effort. And we kind of worked across like 30 schools, 6 faculties, 6 institutes, a dozen central organizations. And like, for anyone that's working at university, like, achieving that is like so exciting to me. I can't explain unless you've done it. It's probably the only time I've ever done it. But, getting that group together was amazing. And we gathered them for a cocktail party before their grads each year. And it was the most electrifying event I think I've ever been to. Everyone kind of, through third circles and, degrees of separation, knew everybody. But you had a real sense of how all these people had contributed to the university for years. And then in the past, they kind of, some of them put 3, 5, 7 years in building this uni community. And then one day they just leave and it's all over. But you had a sense that they would transfer that into the work industry. And from our point of view at the time, I was working for alumni. So, rather than trying to rediscover people 10 years down the track, just don't let go of the ones who were amazing when they left. And I think what the real success story of that was really seeing the individuals of that group continue to grow over the 3 to 5 years. The next 3 to 5 years is a while ago. And you've seen a real tangible record of how these people who were real community leaders really excelled when they took those skills into industry. And then a lot of them kind of would come back and be mentors and speakers to the current students. It was fantastic to see. There's so many talented people out there, and because we had people from everywhere. It was just a really wonderfully diverse group of superstars. It was great.
Yeah, and 2 things I think particularly I would love to see. Number one, the value of random connections at universities and building networks at your time at university is so important. I mean, I look back to my university degree. I met my wife and my co-founder, who later, fused after university. We started the business together, and all because of university and interactions outside of my my bubble. So the value, I'd love to see what some of those, those events have led to down the track, when someone from physics had, made a connection with someone from arts, and how that maybe played on later in life, what was brought back up. It'd be awesome to see what happened there. The other thing was, you say, I completely agree with you on what is so important to celebrate the people who are giving back to universities, the volunteerism, the students who are going above and beyond, not only because they deserve it, but when you do that really well, they end up giving back even more and coming back and giving again and again and again. And that recognition, it pays for itself time and time again, I think. All right.
Certainly does. And it's great for the students too, to see those people who get out there. Often I think we throw examples up of people who are kind of, mid-career or 10 or 15 years away. Whereas, I think students today, they're sometimes more interested in the person that's 1, 2, 3 years out and, what they're doing, because that's about as far as you can really look at that point in time.
100%. And that ties into, Vygotsky and everything that we're big about, that person who's one step ahead of you and what that can mean for you, and inspiring you to go that next level. And so where are we going in the student experience space 3 years from now? What will be some of the major changes that you foresee?
Look, I think for us and a lot of places out there, our long-term focus is really about our ability to scale our efforts. As you've said, and as like we do, my team, they do amazing things, and they're super talented people. I've got 20 people in my team, but we service over 15,000 students, and we realistically can't do that all ourselves. Like, I think there's still a lot of units, and through my time, like there's still a lot of time where people are trying to kind of, manage and hold everything themselves and run workshops and events and all that kind of stuff. And I think really I'm focused on the next 3 years is looking at how we scale that up. How do we make the biggest number of those 15,000 as many times as possible? And I think it's really important to look beyond how many people turned up to an activity that we run, and rather see that as an opportunity to grow our organic peer-to-peer community. So we still do all the same stuff, but it's all about, great, we do a fantastic event, but the point for us isn't that someone turns up to a social event, 3 times a year. One of the tricky things when I came in and asked my mentor manager, one of these intangible questions is like, how do people make friends, and how do people connect? And I think to do that, we need a really good mix of technology and people power. And this is where Vygo has been really great for us as an example. Like, we have the academic tutoring platform, and my support manager, he puts a couple hours a week into maintaining the platform, through which 1,000 students a year tutor each other. So the future for us, we did great things today. The future for us more and more is how to, with the limited time that we have, expand our influence into bigger spheres and bigger scopes. And I guess it's a change in your role, really. Like you're sort of away from the front line to the back line. So it's difficult. That's something that we'll be pretty focused on.
Yeah. And thanks for the kind words, by the way. I completely agree, which is one of the reasons we started Vygo, was these things need to get more scalable, and the opportunities we saw of people who were solving relationships and trust at scale. We were looking at that time, Airbnb and Uber, Airtasker. And of course, there was definitely some rocky periods, and there still are some rocky periods in those worlds, that peer-to-peer world. But we looked at, well, what are some of the good lessons we can take from there for how technology can, enable relationships at scale, and, someone's central mission at scale. And I totally agree that in the future, it'll be more about the technology that allows those things that we used to do quite manually and at small scales go big. But I am quite biased.
Yeah, I mean that's it. It's in a nutshell. How do we put the least amount of time resource into the most amount of community impact? That's the challenge.
Yeah, and enabling students and student connection, I think, is very key in that.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, this is my favorite question. What's a common misconception that you hear within the student experience or student success space?
Look, there's heaps. Funny, and I've been across a few different organisations, so they kind of swirl around, and my experience across them is all fairly similar the way people think. But I think an area that is still really tricky and people have trouble managing is diversity around when you talk about student success and engagement, and particularly when you look at there's a lot of interest around this co-design of different things and building professional stuff, academics for students or different groups of students. And I still see examples where, people will ask one person to join a committee to represent an entire community, like LGBTIQ, or they ask, they get a few people of different ethnicities in a room, and they kind of trust the job's done without really understanding what that actually achieves. Whereas I kind of think of, and I think there's two big sort of parts of diversity. This is one of those ones like you could talk forever, but I think of it as a community manager. It's really about how do I make sure that whatever I do can appeal and connect to the widest audience possible. And to do that, I have to consult with a range of people who think and act differently to me. So the real point there, I think, that people sometimes overlook is that you really critically need knowledge, experience, and behavioral diversity in the group as much as you need kind of your age, gender, and cultural diversity. Unis are very switched on place. They're very good at recognizing unconscious bias and knowing that you need a mix of people in the room. But I think it's that link of what those people bring. And it's generally, people from different backgrounds, cultures, languages, ages. They will generally bring in a range of knowledge, experience, and thought leadership. But it's not a given. And I think that's the misconception. Like, for example, you could have people from 3 different ethnicities in a room, but if they're all third generation English speaking Australians that got top marks at the local private school, they think completely differently, and that doesn't completely similarly, and that doesn't necessarily represent the diversity of your audience. So there's so many things to consider when you look at diversity. I mean, as I said, we got 15,000 people. So one thing is, I think one person can really represent large groups of people because of all those different layers and intersectional disadvantage and all those kind of things. And two, it's a very interesting space, I think, that people are still kind of trying to make work.
Wow, that was a really good answer, mate. I'm gonna use that with my own team, because I think even Vygo, we are susceptible to that so much as well. We might think, how are mature age students going with the platform, and we'll end up talking to one person and then optimizing for that one person. And
there's so many mature age students that are so similar to a fresh uni graduate. Absolutely, that's exactly 100%. You need broad consultation and different levels and layers of consultation, I think, is the trick.
All right. Great lesson there. All right. So, mate, we're getting towards the end. Who is someone that inspires you in the student success or just in the general education space, and why?
Oh, for years it's been like, I get really uplifted by the students who take on a little bit extra to grow themselves and be better humans. And not necessarily the ones that do 16 different things, and there's definitely those. But, sometimes if people can only do, 1 or 2 things, but it stretches them and they do that, I find that really inspiring for myself. Like, I mean, I came to Griffith Uni too. I came here, but I didn't do many extracurricular activities myself. And I think it put me like 5 years behind in my personal but over those 10 years, consistently seeing the next generation lean into leadership activities It's encouraged me to broaden my own experience base as well. You know, like we talk about extracurricular activities being good for employability, but at the end of the day, I think it's just because, you know, good humans make great employees. And I think that's something initially I overlooked. Like I was very focused on being great at my job, but you forget that you never intend to always do that particular job. So one thing that inspired me is looking at people who actually grow themselves and broaden their experience base as a great human. And that sort of carries you through everywhere. So that's been good. Like, you know, every year we get more and more talented students that raise the bar, and I'm still jumping, trying to reach that bar. But, you know, it's definitely had a big impact on me the last few years.
Oh, that's great, mate. Well, I think this will probably lead on into your final answer here for this question. What advice or encouragement would you give a student about to begin their journey at university?
It's a good question at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're in like unprecedented times of change with COVID. And if I was starting a career next year, I'd be terrified. If I was starting uni this year, I'd be thinking, look, I've got 3 years. Hopefully that'll sort itself out. But the truth is, I think the world of work is always constantly evolving, and that's okay. You know, if it's not COVID, it's automation, digitization, you know, platform economies, or something that we can't imagine yet. Like everything changes. It's been COVID this time, and it's been the biggest one ever. But you know, there's always going to be uncertainty, I think, of future. That the rate of that uncertainty, I think, is accelerated. Uni to me is about training you to become a problem solver, have critical thinking, and be a better, you know, thinker. It's a knowledge resource. So then that gives you the ability to build a good experience base and tackle whatever comes. So my advice would be, don't stress about where you want to be now. Use the time to build yourself as a great thinker and agility, and have a broad experience base. And that will give you some confidence that you really, you know, everyone has to become a change agent now. So I think that's one thing, just to remove the stress. And uni can teach you how to do that, and it's particularly through the extracurricular stuff that we do. But like on the more uplifting side too, I think, like, you know, if I'm joining university tomorrow, you'll be saying, like, it's amazing, once in a lifetime journey where you get to discover who you are. Like, again, in your life, the rate of change between a year 12 student and even like a first year university student, you're moving out of home, you know, you're doing new things. Like, it's just an amazing time. So you get to discover who you are, meet new people, try things you can only ever do at that stage of your life as well. Like, nowhere other than uni can you manage 10 other people as a club and be given $10,000 with no experience. You know what I mean? No work is going to give you that straight off that. But uni will. Like, we've got hundreds of club leaders who are walking in, just because, like, you can do whatever you want to do. And you get the ability to do that at uni like nowhere else. So I think lean into that, make the most of it. It's an exciting place to be.
Oh, the ruckus that leaders get to, club leaders get to cause on campus.
Keeps me paid. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that excellent advice. And I think on that note, we've come to the end of our 15-minute cutoff point, 30 minutes in, and we need to wrap up. So Matt, thanks so much for having virtual coffee with me and sharing your stories, your advice, and your visions, mate.
It was I feel like I made a great sin by bringing the tea to the coffee meeting, but sorry.
That's right. I think most guests have actually been tea. Maybe I'm missing the boat here. So thanks for everyone who is watching this video in post. This has been episode 5 of the Champions Coffee podcast. And if you'd like to stay updated on the next episodes or check out the previous guests that we've had on, please go to the Vygo LinkedIn page or go to the Vygo website, vygoapp.com, and you can see all the videos there. Thank you very much, and we'll call it there. Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.